Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. And in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Speeder Bike, Scout Trooper and Grogu set from The Mandalorian. This is essentially a repaint of the Return of the Jedi Speeder Bike, which also came with a figure. In that particular set we got a standard Scout Trooper, and in this set we're getting a Remnant Scout Trooper. We also get Grogu in a little satchel, and of course the speeder bike is like an Imperial remnant in itself as well. So let's take a look at the packaging. The packaging is very similar to the previous speeder bike that we got. This very sturdy cardboard with the punched hole there so it can hang on a shelf in a store, and there's the image on the front of the box. Pretty nice image there of the toy essentially, with the Scout Trooper riding along on his speeder bike. You've got that little yellow sticker there, or print, on the box which says Scout Trooper and Grogu included, and there's a picture of the card back as well. So that card back and this Scout Trooper, the Remnant Scout Trooper, is exclusive to this set. There's another image of the toy there just on the top of the box, and then also on this part of the box you've got a couple more images. Side of the box you've got a close-up of Grogu in the satchel. Other side you've got another scene with the Scout Trooper just standing there next to the speeder bike, and on the back of the box you've got this panel down below which tells you what is in the box, and then a bigger image there which is exactly the same as the front of the box and the Vintage Collection logo. You've got Kenner there. That's the import sticker, because I did get this from In Demand Toys. They imported it all the way from the Far East. So there it is, speeder bike, Scout Trooper and Grogu. Let's open it up and check out what's inside. Okay then, so inside the outer box is a cardboard insert, as well as this here. This is obviously the speeder bike itself, and we've got the stand. There's the figure that we'll take a closer look at in a second, and you also get the instructions in the Kenner style, just telling you basically how you put the Scout Trooper onto the bike, and some of the other features of the speed bike, including the engine hood there and the backpack and things like that go onto the back. Pretty simple. Okay, so before we move on to the speed bike itself and open this figure, let's have a look at him inside the bubble. The bubble is on the larger side compared to normal Vintage Collection bubbles, and that is because it's accommodating the satchel with Grogu inside. A really good image of the Scout Trooper standing there, all weathered up because he is a Imperial remnant basically, and the figure has got lots of weathering on it. We will get the figure out in a second and check him out, but a little bit dusty this card back, but the card back is unpunched for all you carded collectors out there, and this one looks immaculate to me. It looks in great shape, but I'm going to open it. So VC289, there's some other figures that many of you have got already, previous wave and things like that, and there's the Scout Trooper himself. So yeah, all in all, a really nice card back. I do like the orange for the name pill and behind the figure. I think it offsets the figure quite well. And yeah, it looks good. So let's get it open and check him out. All right then, so here is the figure out of the packaging, and I've immediately placed him next to the regular biker Scout that we got with the speeder bike from Return of the Jedi, just so you can get a comparison of the two figures. They are exactly the same in every single way in terms of the sculpt of the figure. No differences whatsoever from what I can tell. Of course, the one on the left, the Imperial Remnant version of the Scout Trooper, is heavily weathered, and they've used like a sort of like an orangey sandy colour to do that. I do feel like the colour that they've used is screen accurate. I mean, if I can just bring in the card back once again, you can see some of the weathering on that uniform is that sort of orangey sandy colour. I would say maybe they've overdone it ever so slightly on the figure, but I think if they had not used enough, then we probably would have complained that he wasn't different enough to the, you know, the actual Return of the Jedi version. But that gives you a good idea of the paint apps. He's a lot more sort of like yellowy with the sandy colour on top as well, whereas the one on the right there is like a brilliant white, isn't he? But that is how they were in the Return of the Jedi. So that's just going to give you a bit of comparison, and now we'll take a look at the figure close up. Now, before we take a look at the figure close up, let's take a look at the accessory that comes with him, which is the satchel with Grogu, or the child, inside. It's a brown piece of plastic with a strap, which obviously can go round either the Scout Trooper or IG-11 if you have that figure. I'm sure you do. And this sort of top piece is a bendy plastic, but it's not really bendy. You can just about open it just to see him in there. He looks quite cute with his hand sort of pulling down the satchel as well so he can see out. But that's just going to go back down, so it is quite difficult to see him in there, but I do like it. I do like the way the satchel has been sculpted there with him pulling that piece down. And you can see him more on side view there, just poking out. But yeah, it's a pretty cool little satchel to go with the figure, and yeah, I appreciate it, definitely. Here's a super close-up look at the figure. You can really see the detail that they've used in all the nooks and crannies of the figure there, just weathering them up, putting all that dirt and grime into sort of the folds and crevices of his armour. He's got it all over his belt, and they've also done it on the legs as well. Let's see if they've done the back of the figure, because this is something Hasbro always seems to miss, in my opinion. They never seem to put the same amount of weathering on the back as they do on the front. Of course, he will get more weathering on the front because he's on a speeder bike and he's going to be hit by the wind face on, but still, I think his armour would still, you know, age pretty well. And you can see the boots there, they've got no grime whatsoever on the back. So, you know, this is what I'm talking about. They kind of miss things like that. But they have put a bit on the back of the armour there, and on the back of the arms, and on the back of his helmet there as well. So, you know, there's a little bit there, but not too much compared to the front, where he is completely and utterly coated in that sand and grime. In terms of articulation, we know all about this figure, but I will go through it very quickly before we look at the speeder bike. He is the same sculpt as the one from the Return of the Jedi, but, you know, the head is on a barbell, and it has loads of range of motion, so you can get it into all sorts of positions because the way he rides the speeder bike. The hinges on the shoulders go up really, really far, and of course they go all the way round. He has hinges at the elbow. Unfortunately, he doesn't have hinges at the wrists. He has the swivel at the glove, which is something I really, really hate, and I wish they had updated on this figure. He has the upper torso ball there, loads of motion on there. Nothing at the waist itself, the belt's in the way anyway. He has the old style hinged hips, so no barbells there. No split at the thigh either, and he has a knee joint, but they did upgrade him to have rocker ankles on this particular figure. So they updated it slightly, but not enough in my opinion. And, you know, as much as I would like a 4-pack of Scout Troopers to army build, not necessarily this one, but the original one, I kind of would like them to update the figure before they did that. And maybe that's the reason why they haven't done that, because I know that when the Return of the Jedi version came out, the community sort of voiced their concerns about how the figure hadn't been updated properly. But they still look good, they still look the part, but in terms of the articulation, it's just a little bit dated. Okay then, and here is the speeder bike, and I can tell you that it is an exact replica of the version that we got in the Return of the Jedi pack, albeit this one's like a whitey grey colour. I would say that the weathering's quite good on this. There's some areas of it that are good, and there's some areas of it which I think that they could have done a bit more weathering. I will show you that in a second. However, there is one slight difference between this one and the Return of the Jedi version, and that is the satchel on the back of the bike, which is removable. So if we look at that one, it is a replica or a closed version of the satchel that we have Grogu in, basically. And that's just going to pop off like so. It comes with 2 little pegs on there, and if we look at the previous version, that has more of like a sort of flat roll, if you like, of material. And again, that comes off. It looks to me like it has exactly the same pegs. So we will try and put this version onto that one. Let's see if we can do that. There we go. So if you wanted the Return of the Jedi version to have that satchel on the back, you can. And if you wanted this version to have this on the back, you can do that as well. So yes, as I mentioned, the speeder bike itself is like an off-white colour. It looks grey in places because of the weathering that they've applied. You can see on the front of the ship there, you've got some weathering, some darker greys. You've also got some red paint apps as well going on there. And then the side of the speeder bike, you've got a few pieces of battle damage, especially on the rear piece there. And if we turn it around, same again, you've got, you know, some battle damage going on there, and you know, the whole bike on this piece here is kind of like painted grey, just to give it that sort of worn look. Where I think that they could have improved it is on the front there. I feel if you compare the front piece to the Return of the Jedi version, the Return of the Jedi version has really got a lot of damage going on the front there, whereas the Remnant version really hasn't. In fact, it's, you know, just been painted a little bit grey. So it looks as though nothing sort of hit that and chipped away at that whatsoever. So I feel that they could have just given that a few more paint apps on the front there, a little bit like they've done on the side here, just on the front there, just to give it a bit of an extra worn look. In terms of the features, it's exactly the same as the Return of the Jedi version. These open up at the back like so to reveal some of the engines at the back. The stand can go into 3 different positions. I've got it on the sort of lowest position at the moment, and then you can have it on the medium or the highest position. The bottom of the speeder bike is all one colour in terms of the sort of gunmetal grey plastic that they've used, very much like the Return of the Jedi version again. The gun on the bottom doesn't spin, unfortunately, because it is attached by the hose. So all the problems that I felt that we had with this sculpt from the Return of the Jedi version are also apparent here. The handlebars don't move unless you pop the peg hole out there, which is a bit of a problem, and then there's no clip holding that down, which reveals the engine. And once again, the engine hasn't been painted at all, which is, you know, this for me is like a smaller vehicle. They haven't really gone to town on it like they would like a mid-range vehicle, for example. There's some outer paintwork and everything, but in terms of like the inner workings of the ship, there isn't really anything to talk about. But yeah, that's about it in terms of its features. I do like the fact that you get the closed satchel. I do like that. And I do like the fact that that can be interchanged with the one that comes with the Return of the Jedi. I think that's cool. I'm definitely going to get a couple of these to have in some kind of scene. I really do want to display it with IG-11 on there. In fact, I'm going to do that now for you. I'm going to get IG-11 on there with the satchel, and then we can see what it looks like. And there he is, IG-11 with the satchel with Grogu. And I've got him on the speeder bike. He fits just fine. He's holding onto the handlebars. If I'd taken a little bit more time to pose him, I'm sure I could have got his feet perfectly in those like foot guard things, pedals, whatever you want to call them. But he looks awesome, and it's been ages since I've been wanting to do this with this figure, of course. We've had to wait what seems like a lifetime for this Remnant speeder bike. Season 1, end of Season 1 this was, wasn't it? Obviously the Queel death and everything, spoiler alert. Very, very cool episode. Great to see the speeder bikes again. Great to see IG-11 on a speeder bike as he zoomed in and basically took everyone out. I thought that was an awesome scene. And yeah, you can recreate it now with this speeder bike and the IG-11 figure. So that's him on there. I think he looks pretty cool. I'm just going to very quickly put the Scout Trooper on there now so you can see what that looks like. Of course, it's the same figure as the Return of the Jedi version, so it should be pretty simple. And there we have it. We have the Scout Trooper now on the speeder bike, looking pretty cool. As I mentioned before, I'm definitely going to get a couple of these for my collection. I think they look great. You know, Season 1 of Mandalorian, man, that is just too long to wait. But they're finally here. Hopefully you guys will be able to get them in your collection pretty soon. I want to thank In Demand Toys for getting these on import. Very lucky in the UK that we have a company that's prepared to do that. You have to pay a little bit more for them because obviously they do import them. So there's that import charge as well, but it's good to get them and review it for you guys. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've enjoyed the comparison against the Return of the Jedi version and the figure. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members. And we'll see you on the next one.